How true is the word true love? How did it happen that a 34-year-old teacher with a husband and child fell in love with a 12-year-old student? What was the truth in their relationship, and how they paid for it in the eyes of the law? Before we start our story, if you are new to this channel, don't forget to click subscribe, and don't forget to like this video, so that you are always updated with life amazing stories. From America, there is a beautiful and kind teacher who teaches at Washington Elementary School, in the person named Mary Kay Letourneau. Mary was 34 years old, and grew up in a Christian family. She also has a husband and 4 children. At first, she was happy with her family. But soon her husband's behavior changed. There were times she caught it a few times, with another girl. And every time she catches it, her husband still hurts her, which is why she was rushed to the hospital several times. Although she tried to sue her husband for mistreating her, her husband was also acquitted several times. Mary had decided only to live with it, for the sake of the future of their children. Despite this, Mary continued to teach in an elementary school. And because their place was small, most of the parents of her students became her friends. She was known in their area and school as the second mother of their students. She was naturally kind to them, because she always watches over them, so that they do not have difficulty in their lessons. Moreover, many admired Mary in their place, because of her beauty. Despite her bad experiences, especially in their marital relationship, Mary wants to live as a righteous woman, and also because of the influence of being a Christian. But there is an event which will test her character and femininity. In 1996, their school had a summer camp, and it included Mary and some of her students. One night, while Mary was watching the students from their sleep, a boy approached her. And he was Vili Fellow, 15 years old and one of her students. At first, Mary wondered why Vili was still awake, so she ordered him to go back to his sleep. But Mary would be shocked by what happened next, because Vili suddenly hugged her, and said that he likes her. Although, for a moment Mary could not move, due to the circumstances, she pushed Vili when she was upset. She said, "Just go back to sleep," while Mary quickly walked away. But this time, Vili was still staring at her, as it felt the love sprout from his cheap mind. After summer camp and vacation, the students' class started again. Despite this, Mary tried to forget what happened that night of summer camp. And she thought of what Vili's done on that night, were only the impulse of a child. So as before, she remained kind to it. But for Vili, what he feels for Mary is not a game, but it is true and pure love. Almost every day, Vili brings flowers from their school garden to give it to Mary. And on this occasion, Mary did not realize that she was gradually falling in love with Vili. Even though she knew it was wrong, because it was her student, and above all, it was a minor. Unbeknownst to her, this is where the infidelity of her husband and children begins. For some unknown reason, Mary agreed to meet with Vili on the night of June 18, 1996. They ate at a fast food chain, and then they went to a parking lot near at the sea. When Mary was talking to Vili, she didn't notice that she was laughing again. She also felt a strange joy again, something she had not experienced for a long time, from her husband. Their story lingered for a few hours, and unexpectedly, Mary did not realize that something had happened to the two of them, which Vili gave her a strange emotion. Although she knows that she already has a family, she feels like she has become a teenager again, so they continued what they were doing. In the middle of this scene, Mary and Vili did not notice that there were already policemen approaching their car. They were just surprised when the light of the flashlight hit them from the police. Vili quickly got dressed, jumped in the back seat of the car, and pretended to be asleep. While Mary goes out of her car to talk to the police, but on this occasion, Mary forgot to put on her pants. As a result, the police surprised the two of them. They questioned them what they were doing in the parking lot at that time. Mary answered quickly, and said that she had run away from their house, because of an argument between her and her husband. And it just so happened that Vili was also there, so she took him with her and left the house. Because his mother was her friend, because of what she said, the police believed. A few days later, the two resumed their illicit relationship. Their meeting also became frequent, which resulted in a strange miracle. But soon, someone will catch them, a relative of her husband, who is caught up in Mary's strange behavior. It always comes in early, and often comes home late at night. and when it followed Mary once, he caught it in the act of sin with the young Vili. He quickly reported it to the police, reason, to arrest Mary. On March 4, 1997, Mary admitted her mistakes. But unbeknownst to everyone, she turned out to be 7 months pregnant, and the father she was carrying was Vili. As a result, her husband divorced her, while her children also left, because of too much embarrassment. The case lasted several months, and while awaiting the court's verdict, Mary gave birth to their child, on May 29, 1997, in Vili's care. And because of her confession, her sentence was reduced, and she was imprisoned for only 3 months, from November 1997. But in return, she could no longer meet and talk with Vili, as well as with his children, even if she is still free. Because of this scandal, Mary became the subject of international news. All her acquaintances were also surprised, because they did not think that the kind and godly Mary would have a relationship with a minor. After Mary's incarceration, everyone thought that the relationship between the two would end, as opposed to what happens next. On February 3, 1998, just a few weeks after Mary's release, the police caught her again, inside her car, with a boy, and it was none other than Vili. Although they tried to say that nothing had happened inside the car, the police did not believe, because of the dew that had precipitated from the glass of their car. Moreover, the two tried to give a different name. But since they became famous from their first scandal, the police could not be mistaken in their identification. So, for the second time, Mary was imprisoned again, and it would last for 7 years. Unfortunately, she was pregnant again, for her and Vili's second child, and she gave birth to it in prison, and also went back to Vili's care. Despite this, Mary was forced to live righteously. She taught her fellow prisoners how to read, and she also made a book for blind prisoners. Meanwhile, Vili stopped studying. Because of what he went through, he had a deep depression. He also learned to drink alcohol, and he also attempted suicide. He is very sad, because his beloved Mary has been removed from his sight, and it hurts. 7 years later, in 2004, Mary was released, and by this time, Vili was 21 years old. Since Vili was an adult, he approached the court and asked that they be allowed to see Mary again. This was allowed by the court, so on May 20, 2005, they were married and were free to be together with their 2 children. Although Vili tried to break up with Mary in May 2017, 12 years when they got married, due to some problems, like a normal couple. Vili also took it back, and he chose to stay with his beloved Mary. In 2020, Mary was diagnosed with colon cancer, so Vili did not leave her alone. He was always just at home, so that he could be taken care of, and watched her over to last a few months, before Mary passed away, on July 6, 2020. Eventually, we witnessed the true story of true love. Although they both made a mistake, they both suffered it and paid for it, especially in the eyes of the law, but they did not budge, and they waited for the right time so that they could be with each other again. Thank you for watching.